NATO is planning to combat a possible Russian invasion of the Baltic states. In this regard, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania are preparing a Baltic line of defense, which involves strengthening a section of the border with Russia and Belarus that is about 965 kilometers long, writes the Telegraph. It is noted that the main elements of this plan were first announced in January 2024. Among them are 1,000 concrete bunkers, 600 of which are planned to be located in Estonia. They are planned to be supplemented with trenches, anti-tank ditches, ammunition depots, and supply shelters. The publication emphasized that construction is proceeding at a rapid pace. However, its completion could take a decade. We need 10 years to prepare to counter the Russian threat. Putin will not allow us to wait these 10 years. The most dangerous time for the Baltics will come immediately after the ceasefire in Ukraine, warned former Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis. The publication also recalled a Danish intelligence report which said that after the war in Ukraine is stopped or frozen, Russia will be able to quickly rearm in order to start a war against NATO. According to analysts, in 6 months, Russia will have the ability to conduct a local war in a country bordering it. The publication added, according to the forecast, in 2 years, Moscow will be ready for a regional war against several countries in the Baltic region, and in 5 years for a large-scale war in Europe. In addition, the publication recalled that NATO countries signed a plan in 2023 to protect the Baltics with reinforcement lines from Finland, Poland and Germany. Now the alliance is deploying a battalion-sized multinational force on a rotational basis in each Baltic country. Latvia is protected by a Canadian-led international force, Lithuania by a German brigade, and Estonia by about 1,000 British troops, the newspaper said. However, Tallinn, Riga and Vilnius fear a lightning-fast Russian invasion. That's why they want more, replacing the current battle groups with combat-ready brigades and a permanent NATO presence. We lack strategic depth. The Russians can go through the entire country in a few hours, if not days, so we defend ourselves from the first meter. Look at Ukraine and their captured cities. What they took back was a wasteland, Landsbergis explained. The war in Ukraine has taught the Baltic states the importance of deep defense and countering enemy mobility, the publication added. The big advantage in modern warfare is defense. New drones and satellite imagery have made it possible to have constant surveillance from above in Ukraine. You always know the enemy's positions. Mobile warfare is not dead, but it has become radically more complex, so fortifications take on new importance. Michael Diciana, a research fellow at the Institute of World Policy, told reporters. The publication noted that the new Baltic defensive line is not a barrier in the literal sense, like the Maginot Line, which was built by France in the 1930s to deter a German invasion. It's not a wall or a solid line of fortifications. It's more flexible, mobile, modern means of enhancing defense and deterrence, said Martha Kepp, a senior defense analyst at the RAND think tank. According to her, the goal of the Baltic States project is to give a possible Russian invasion a certain form by directing enemy forces into streams that can be attacked. This is another arrow in the quiver of Baltic defense, which cannot act passively on its own, Kepp emphasized.
Russia is forced to blow up bridges and dams in the regions to stop the offensive of Ukrainian troops into the Belgorod and Bryansk regions. This was stated by Yevgeny Daiky, former commander of the Aidar battalion of the Ukrainian army, expert. The military says that preparations are underway to blow up bridges and dams in Bryansk. This is not happening by chance, they are forced to do this to stop us, it is done out of desperation. These methods are used when it is impossible to stop the enemy with military equipment, the former commander said. He recalled that Ukraine used such tactics only once, at the beginning of a full-scale war, by blowing up a dam near Irpin. There was a question that the enemies would enter Kiev. Those who gave the order to blow up the dam actually saved the capital. But everyone remembers what kind of actions these were. We stopped the Russians in front of the capital with a crowd of volunteers who, in civilian clothes, received Kalashnikovs with wooden butts and went to Irpin by bus along this dam. And now the Russians are blowing up bridges and dams, but already on the territory of the Russian Federation. That is, they directly admit that their army is not capable of stopping us on the territory of the Belgorod and Bryansk regions. That all hope is in the landscape, added Dyky. Ukraine ISO destroys bridges in Russian territory. Recently, Ukrainian Air Force Sukhoi Su-27 fighters, modified to lob American and French-made precision glide bombs, are blowing up bridges in western Russia. Dropping bridges over the Siversky Donets River and other waterways in Belgorod and Kursk could be the key to this effort. Modified to carry hammer glide bombs from France and similar joint direct attack munitions and small diameter bombs from the United States, the Su-27s are equipped for the task. But flying close enough to western Russia to target its bridges is dangerous even for the speedy, maneuverable Su-27s. Ukraine went to war in February 2022 with no more than 57 flyable Su-27s, and has lost at least 16 in action, including 6 that were damaged or destroyed last summer in a Russian missile attack while parked at Mirgorod Air Base, 100 miles from Ukraine's northern border with Russia.
A new batch of F-16 fighters is being prepared for transfer to Ukraine. This was stated by the Supreme Allied Commander Europe, head of the U.S. European Command, U.S. Army General Christopher Cavoli, during a hearing in the U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee. According to him, in addition to the aircraft that have already been transferred, more fighters are being prepared and the training program for Ukrainian pilots is being expanded. There are more F-16s ready to be deployed there. There are more pilots in training, Cavoli said. The general emphasized that Ukrainian forces are already using F-16s to defend the sky. Fighters are used to intercept Russian missiles and to launch offensive strikes. At the same time, Cavoli clarified that none of the aircraft transferred to Ukraine came directly from the United States. However, none of the F-16s were from the US. They were mostly from northern European countries, the Netherlands and Denmark, Cavoli added. On March the 19th, President Volodymyr Zelenski confirmed that a new shipment of F-16 fighter jets arrived in Ukraine. Previously, Ukrainian officials said more F-16 fighter jets are expected to arrive in Ukraine this year. Currently still serving as the unquestioned backbone of the United States Air Force's combat fighter fleet, the F-16 Fighting Falcon is currently approaching 5 full decades of operational combat service. The aircraft currently has a strong production backlog, meaning that deliveries will undoubtedly continue into the near future. One of the most critical roles the F-16 has played is in defending Ukrainian skies, proving their worth in intercepting incoming Russian missiles and drones. In one example, a Ukrainian-operated F-16 shot down 6 Russian cruise missiles in a single sortie. The pilot even used the aircraft's main cannon to destroy 2 of these missiles, showcasing both the skill of the trained Ukrainian pilots and the platform's versatility. This ability to take down incoming threats is vital, given Russia's daily bombardment of Ukrainian cities and infrastructure with drones and missiles. While Ukraine has been defending itself using Soviet-era jets like the MiG-29 and Su-27, these aircraft were never designed for modern air combat or missile interception. The F-16, with its advanced radar systems and missile capabilities, is far more effective in this role. Since the start of the war, Ukraine has repeatedly emphasized the need for Western fighter jets to counter Russia's air power. Having more F-16 jets in its arsenal means that Ukraine can improve its operational flexibility in the skies, switching from purely defensive to offensive missions at a much higher pace with overall bigger efficiency and with less risk. With the continuous degrading of the Russian air defense network through a massive operation destroying hundreds of Russian launchers, radars and electronic warfare systems over the past months, the increased quantity of F-16 fighter jets gained the freedom to be used aggressively in offensive roles as well. They were recently involved in airstrikes on Russian military positions, infrastructure and headquarters in Kursk, dealing significant damage and sabotaging Russian efforts, working in tandem with Ukrainian MiGs.